Think of the biggest rivalries in the world: the USA versus Russia, the white man versus the other races, Messi versus Ronaldo, iPhone versus Android, and India versus Pakistan. Now, if you live in the West, there's a good chance you don't see a difference between the two, but if you live in the neighborhood, or you've watched a few YouTube videos that make you an expert, you know that India versus Pakistan is little more than a cricket match, or a bunch of angry Asians. It's a conflict that could lead to World War III. Pakistanis see Indians as cow worshippers, Indians see Pakistanis as inbred, and in truth, there is a basis for both of these claims. On one side is India, the country with the largest population in the world. On the other side is Pakistan, an Islamic republic. You can see how the situation will become explosive, and not because one side is Muslim. The root of the conflict is how not. The British, don't be fooled, most of the hottest conflicts in the world today are in countries that were under British occupation or mandate, and when the British ran out of tea, they decided to leave. It is about abysmal hatred, victorious rivalry. Pakistani children sing that they dream of enlisting in the army and dying. Indian children go wild on social networks and react everywhere. They say that the most advanced AI today is a warehouse full of Indians who work for $1 a day. In short, it doesn't seem that the tense situation will disappear in the near future, but what is currently causing this rivalry to continue? What do these two sides already have to fight about besides cricket? Most of the armed conflict between the two countries takes place in Kashmir, and in fact, to understand the nature of the conflict between India and Pakistan, you need to understand the situation in Kashmir. Today, Kashmir belongs to India, Pakistan, and China. They are everywhere. Most likely your neighborhood is also under Chinese ownership in one way or another. A lot of blood was spilled on this region of the country. You probably think that this is a place with a lot of natural resources, but at the end of the video, we will refer to what makes the region of the Kashmir unique. Now it's time for history. Before we continue, if you liked the video so far, you are welcome to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting and hidden content from our history. For nearly 1,000 years, Kashmir was under the rule of the rulers of Jammu, the royal house of the Hindu Dogra family. At that time, Muslims, Buddhists, and Hindus lived there in peace and cooperation. But everything changed when the Fire Nation, Mongols, decided to attack, and starting in 1349, the land was in the hands of Muslim rulers, including the Mughals, who ruled until 1751. After that, the Sikh Empire was the one that took over on Kashmir, and everyone lived happily ever after, until the British discovered that there was a lot of tea in imperialism, and in 1846, they conquered the country and appointed an Indian ruler on their behalf. So, what do we actually have here? A region that in the distant past was a bastion of cooperation and brotherhood between different nations and religions, and today has become a symbol of the struggle between Hindus and Muslims. The region prevailed in relative calm under the British occupation in 1947 after years of rebellions over the years and a burning desire for independence and a lot of work by a guy named Mahatma Gandhi, who advocated non-violent demonstrations and peace between all religions and origins. The British left India. On August 15, 1947, the partition of India took place, the division of territory when India and Pakistan got their independence from Britain and British India ceased to exist. Population exchange on a huge scale occurred in the months immediately after the partition. Millions of Hindus migrated from Pakistan to India, and Muslims and Sikhs from India to Pakistan. This is the largest population exchange in human history, and hundreds of thousands lost their lives in those days because the new countries were not prepared and organized for such a large immigration process. To their credit, even Europe, which is supposedly the main continent in the world, proved that masses of immigrants can be a tricky situation that will collapse your social order. Due to the explosive situation, massacres, looting, and general anarchy occurred on the border, in events that were enshrined in the national consciousness of both nations. In the Sino-Indian War in 1962, China decided that it also wanted a part of Kashmir and took control of the northern part of the land. By the way, there is no Chinese population living in Kashmir. China occupied Kashmir probably to compensate for something. If you don't hear from me in the near future, you will know that Winnie the Pooh has reached me. In 1965, the Pakistanis did not give up and tried to invade Kashmir once more. The war ended with an Indian victory and a return to the previous borders. But the most significant event is India's distance from the West, which until then was an ally of India, Britain, and the USA. But the West, like the West, knows creating conflicts and then war breaking out because of them requires that both sides stop, because only the US and the West are allowed to fight. The West imposed an embargo on both sides, which caused India to develop relations with Russia and Pakistan to get closer to China. In 1999, the Kargil War began. Pakistan once again invaded Kashmir. Once again, battles took place in which hundreds of soldiers lost their lives, and once again, Pakistan retreated to the agreed lines after international intervention. At the same time, the Muslims in Kashmir turned to their field of specialization, terrorism. Severe and numerous acts of terrorism are taking place in Kashmir to this day, mostly by Muslims against Hindus. India accuses Pakistan of encouraging and budgeting these acts of terrorism. And to be honest, there is a 90% chance that a country will encourage terrorism if it ends up in Stan. The Kargil War was the first war between India and Pakistan after both countries demonstrated their nuclear capability in nuclear tests. Both sides threatened each other 13 times with the use of nuclear weapons in less than 2 months. If this is stressful, guess what will happen if Iran has a nuclear weapon? Say what you want about India and Pakistan, but at least their foreplay only took 2 months compared to the US and Russia's, which took 44 years. Today, each of the two countries has approximately 170 nuclear warheads in their possession, enough to make Fallout New Vegas a reality. The land of Kashmir has turned from a mountainous and heavenly land into a land saturated with terror and death. From a place of brotherhood and unity regardless of religion, it became a place of racism and aversion to the other. And now the question arises, is there anything special in the land of Kashmir? So Kashmir does not have huge gas or oil reserves, but it has a resource that will prove to be just as important in the coming decades: water. In a world steeped in global warming, and no, it's not a myth or mind engineering by the government, it's enough to go outside to understand that it's hotter than ever. Water is given a different status than it used to be, and Pakistan, a country without water reservoirs and dependent on its import, would be happy to have at its disposal a region rich in water reservoirs and rivers rich. So even though today the war between the countries has become the cricket field, whose popularity in India alone makes it the second most watched sport in the world, it is not impossible that in the near future the fourth or third Kashmir war between the two countries will begin, and it will probably be more destructive than ever. That's all for today. If you liked the video, you are welcome to check out the rest of our content, and who knows, you might find a new story that you didn't know.